What's up, guys? We're back with another video, episode 1 of our podcast. My name is Logan Collins, one of the co-hosts. Other co-hosts right there, Adrian Sosa.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Today we're going to be recapping last night. I don't know when we're going to be posting this, but night 1 of the NBA, Jazz, Pelicans, Lakers, Clippers. Also talking about some NBA predictions just for the regular season up until the playoffs. But I'm going to start it off real quick. Good first night. You know, low-scoring games, which is what I expected, to be honest. Just a lot of defense, a lot of rust. I don't know. What'd you think, Sos?
It was a little sloppy at times, just kind of getting back in the groove of things. I think especially in the Lakers-Clipper game, you saw it was a game of runs. Lakers jumped out on them early. Clippers took the lead. Looked like they were pulling away some in the third quarter. And then the Lakers kind of took control late before Paul George went off and hit a couple of threes. But that's kind of expected here. You know, first couple games of the regular season, Lakers, Clippers. Truthfully, Lakers don't really have anything to play for other than just getting everything back to where they were pre-COVID. You know, I think they're 5.5 games up in first place.
6.5, I think now.
6.5 now. So they're good. I mean, their main thing is staying healthy and making sure that they're ready to roll.
I'm repping, Lake Show right here, wrong. You had to, but real quick. So
what did you think about the Pelicans and the Utah game? Zion only playing 15 minutes.
Yeah. So I was about to just touch on that real quick, but they don't have much breathing room. They're not the 9 seed round. The Blazers are, and the Kings are right next to them. So I don't like how Alvin Gentry said, or only didn't play him down the stretch. They can't afford to lose a game right now. And they just did. And they were up, 10 throughout most of the second half. I know you want to save him, but there's no time to save him. They got to get in. And I know that, they could get that 9 seed and have that play in with Memphis, but they aren't even there yet. And now I know they have an easy schedule. You still have to go win NBA games. You have to win. They still have to go out and perform. So I think that was a game where you can't rest him. If they're up late, yes, but they were down and he would have been useful down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, he's 20 years old. He just came off of 3 months of chilling, rehabbing, getting his body right. I mean, if you're on a minute restriction, then you save those minutes to the end of the game. You can't use them all early on and then just have him sitting and watching.
Yeah, he could have sit early on or maybe not started. And then hopped in late.
I mean, it's a catch-22. You save him to the very end. He goes long spurts without playing minutes. He's cold. Now you might risk injury, putting him back in the game. And it's a game time, but that's really 20, 30 minutes of real time. He was just sitting on the bench. So it's a catch-22. The way I look at it, he's either healthy or he's not. He's cleared or he can't play. If he could
There's
play,
no in the middle.
You play him. And obviously he knows his body better than any of us, and the doctors, he could tell you how he feels. So if he says he's good to go, you got to trust him. He's 20 years old. I think he's smart enough to know that he's not going to jeopardize his future for one regular season game.
So I got a question for you now about the Lakers. So this is what I think about the game. Clippers didn't have much, rotation, they missed Harrell and Lou Will, and Pat Bev was a little shaky. And then Paul George took over. They weren't at full strength. Lakers, on the other hand, had AD pretty much carry throughout the game. LeBron ended strong. He had 32 AD, and I'm pretty sure Bron, had 16, about 11 and 7. But my question that I'm asking you is, even though there was a little rust, I know LeBron will correct that. Do you think LeBron, that last possession, he locked up Paul George and Kawhi, and he scored at will. When LeBron wants to defend and when LeBron wants to score, do you think he's the best at both? Meaning if you got one possession, LeBron is the best defender out there. If you need one bucket, LeBron's the best guy to go get you that bucket. Do you feel like that LeBron is the best for both of those down the stretch if this ever comes up again in playoffs?
I don't know if he's the best, but I trust him in those situations. His basketball IQ is so high. For example, when he was guarding Paul George, before Paul George got the ball, Kawhi, he locked up Kawhi to where he picked up his dribble and he had to make a pass. LeBron, he's going to make the right basketball play. So whether you play too tight, he blows by you, dribble penetrate, defense comes, he's kicking to the corner. He might get criticized if, KCP misses the jump shot or Kuzma misses the shot. But at the end of the day, he's going to make the right play. And these guys are all pros.
But that real quick, that's a win for the other team. Like if the Clippers say, "Let me get it out of Braun's hands," and they kick it to Caruso, and we talked about this last night, and he went what, like 1 for 6 from 3, like that. Great job, clap it up for them, because if they're not going to let LeBron beat them, they could double LeBron, help on the screen every time.
If I'm the Clippers or I'm any other team, if you notice, every time LeBron caught the ball, he saw all 4 guys in help side, almost in the paint. They were forcing him to take jump shots, and I think early on he wasn't scoring a lot, but it wasn't because he wasn't being aggressive. He was taking what the defense gave him. They were packing it in, and he was passing out. Kuzma got off early. AD got off early. And also, there were some weird lineups on the floor. You had Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith at one time. Quinn Cook, who's been somewhat of a rotation guy in the past, didn't even play. The Morris twin, I mean, he barely got in the game. You see 10, 15 minutes of game action. No JaVale McGee. Dwight had more fouls.
He played bad.
Minutes. It's crazy. Yeah. So, it's game 1. Fortunate for the Lakers, they're in a position where they don't have to play perfect basketball like you were saying with the Pelicans. Every game right now is a must-win for them.
The Lakers might rest Braun, to be honest with you. There's no reason to play him.
Yeah, other than I would start him the first quarter and start him the third quarter, get him when he's fresh, coming out of warm-ups and halftime. Maybe mix up the lineup some, throw in Dion Waiters, J.R. Smith, guys that are going to be there at the end of games that have to produce. You don't want to try those lineups for the first time in the playoffs when all of a sudden the games matter.
So sticking in the West real quick, that 2 through 7 is about 3 games or so, gap. And at the end of the day, they're going to have to run through each other. Like no matter who plays each other, yes, it might be an easier matchup for another team, but they're pretty much interchangeable. But the real question is who's going to get the 8 seed. At the end of the day, just who gets it. In my opinion, I'll just start real quick. I think I personally think Portland. I'm a little biased. I like Dame, but I think Portland, especially, they're playing Memphis right now. They get this win. I just think they're experienced. They went far last year. They have Dame. They have Nurkic back. They got Whiteside, CJ, Melo. I just think that I don't think Memphis gets it, and I think Portland will. And I don't know about the Pelicans now after watching them last night.
There's so many variables when you're trying to figure out the 8th seed. You got injuries. What's going on with Zion? Is he going
Lonzo wasn't shooting it well also.
Yeah,
2 for 14.
Are these guys going to be on minute restrictions moving forward? Dame has a little issue with his foot. He's listed as day-to-day or probable on the injury report. So assuming everybody's healthy, I think you're right. They have the most experience going deep in the playoffs last year to the Western Conference Finals before getting swept by Golden State. And you always say it's a guards game. It doesn't matter how good your 5 or your 4 is. You have to have elite guards or wings. And they got 2. They got 2. And Melo may not be a 48-minute guy. He may not be able to get a stop when the time comes. But when you need a basket, you could throw it to him and clear out and let him go to work one-on-one. So, I think for them the biggest thing is they got a lot of moving pieces, a lot of guys that are healthy now, playing big-time minutes. And you got guys like Whiteside, who was playing a lot of minutes. Carmelo came in and was starting at the 4. So now these guys have to adjust to, in Carmelo's position, he's now the 3. Whiteside maybe coming off the bench, not playing as many minutes. So are these guys going to buy in and accept their role? If they do, with Dame and CJ in the backcourt, I like their chances. And you got to keep in mind, it's a playing game. So depending on how many teams.
Well, it's 2. It's 2 for the team that's the 9 seed.
Correct. You got to beat them twice. You got to beat them twice. But, I like Memphis. Memphis, their body of work over 60 games is they were consistent. They built a 3.5 game lead up on the Pelicans prior and the Kings and all those teams prior to yesterday. So I don't necessarily think it's fair to them that they're in a position where they have to have a playing game when they played 3/4 of the season. Their body of work should do it. It shows that they were consistent. They were playing well. They did have the toughest schedule to finish the season, so it would have been intriguing to see how the season would have finished.
So just my opinion. This is to the viewers watching this. I want to hear your opinion on this, what I'm about to say. Lonzo Ball, like for the Pelicans, a lot of these names are just being thrown out there. They got Ball. But is Lonzo even that big of an asset? Like, yes, he's good in the passing game. He pushes the floor, but 2 for 14 does not – I mean, it weighs sometimes. Like, he can't shoot. His free throw – I'm a big fan of the Ball family, but he's not living up to the number 2 overall pick. And, I liked how B.I. played last night. Zion did as much as he could with the minutes he played. But that's my opinion on that. So I'm going to ask you this question. One more question, and then we'll move on to the East. With Denver's a 3 seed right now. We've talked about this before as well. When do you know whether to give someone the max? Because there's a lot of teams that I could say on the top of my head, the Heat, Boston, Denver. I know there's only 2 spots in the finals every single year, but they have been stuck in this 3 seed range, the teams I just named, and Toronto. Without Kawhi, when they had DeRozan, they were stuck in that 2 seed range, just sitting there. Utah is in that position. How do you know when to not give the guy the max and when to give the guy the max? Because think about it, Dame even, great player, CP3, Hall of Famer, they haven't even made the finals once. So, how do you know?
I think, and it shouldn't be this way, but one of the biggest factors is the market. Is Denver able to go out and attract young free agents, max caliber players? If they're not, right, then I think you have to hold on to the players you have, and you may have to overpay for them.
But so, for example, quick.
So like Utah, and we had this conversation about
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell, is he a max player? Maybe, maybe not. But if you're Utah, free agents aren't dying to go play in Utah, so you can't lose him for nothing.
But
so going back to Denver, you're right. They've been stuck in this 3 seed, or they're built for the regular season, in my opinion. They have a
correct.
lot of
they have a young guys.
Their coach, he's very disciplined. He's more of a he runs a tight ship type coach. He doesn't let you just go out there and play freely. So I think 5-6 years from now, we're going to look back and say, man, Denver, they should have had 1 or 2 championships with their young players, and they're not going to get it.
I think you need a top 5 player in the league now to win a championship. I think that's proven, and it's that simple. When it comes down to it, when you're game 6, you need 2 wins. LeBron going to go for 40. Kawhi going to go for 40. Durant going to go for 40. Do you have that with three solid players versus 2 all-stars? I'd rather have the 2 all-stars.
So the way I look at it is, who is Denver's best player?
Jokic.
You don't win with bigs, not in today's game. So you got to have an elite level guard. Jamal Murray is good, but he's not elite. He's not elite. So the good thing that they have going for them is they have a lot of young players on cap-friendly deals. Michael Porter Jr. late in the lottery, Bobo, 2nd-round pick. I mean, you got a lot of guys. I mean, and Bobo is a couple years away. But these guys, healthy, they can flourish into, a elite role player position. Jamal Murray, I mean, he's good, but if he's your best player, or Will Barton is, coming in as a spark, you need more than Will Barton, Jokic, like Paul Millsap. Like, these guys, they're a good team. They play hard. I don't think you can win with that group.
So I'm going to touch on that, and then we'll move to the East, like I said. Real quick about Denver. My thing about Denver is that they did the rebuild correctly, okay? That's what a good team, good organization does. They got Jamal Murray, they got Jokic, okay? The better the elite organizations will bring in the free agent, like you said, to pair with that. Boston has drafted all these guys, and they did the best they could. They brought in Kemba because Kyrie wanted to leave, right? And at least they're making a good attempt. Toronto did the same thing. They got Siakam, they got Lowry, and now they're bringing in Kawhi, and they won the championship. I think that's where it separates. And the Heat, this is their first year with Jimmy. They need to get someone to pair with him, or else it's just a waste at that point. But switching it over to the East real quick, there's not much to say. The 7 and 8 seed does not matter right now in the East. It's really 1 through 6 or 1 through 5, because Indiana is nothing to me, in my opinion. If you're let's say Eric Spoelstra, who don't you want to play in the first round?
Um, I mean, obviously, you don't want to play the Bucks. If it's up to me, I mean, I would.
Realistically, though, we're not going to be the 8 seed. So I'm saying
Yeah. So I
between
mean, I would want to
Philly,
play.
Toronto, Boston,
I would want to play Toronto. The reason
you would
being,
want to.
I would want to. They're a better team. Um, they play the right way. Siakam is a future star. I don't know if he's a star today. You know, like I feel okay with Jimmy Butler getting a stop on him last play of the game. Um, Siakam, he's a hybrid. You know, he's not a wing, but he's not your prototypical forward. He's kind of like a 3-4 guy who can put it on the ground and shoot. So I would like my chances with Toronto where they don't have that go-to guy. Kyle Lowry, he had a great playoff run last year, and he had a great finals against Golden State. But to me, he's not that guy. You know, if he benefited from Kawhi. So he was the third best player. And then, to be honest, Fred VanVleet was killing last year. So I would rather play Toronto. When you talk about Boston, you know, they got Jason Tatum, a future star, talking like 10, 12-year all-star player, future, you know, first-team All-NBA guy. Kemba Walker could go off for 30 quickly. You got a lot of interchangeable pieces over there. And then the wild card is always Philly. You know, when you go down their roster, I think they're so talented with a versatile Ben Simmons who has really showcased his defensive abilities this year. I still think when healthy, Joel Embiid is a beast, and I do not want to see him healthy in a 5 or 7 game series. Definitely don't want to see him healthy. And then you got a veteran in Al Horford, you know, who comes in when Joel's not there. So if you have to give me the choice, I'm picking Toronto. Um, I don't want to play Boston. And I know they may end up playing Boston or Philly, but if I had to choose between the two, I'm going with Philly only because they're so inconsistent. Coach Brown, he's on the hot seat. He may be out of there if they don't advance this year. They got Tobias. I mean, they got a lot of guys over there, max players. They got like 3 or 4 guys.
They do.
Their roster doesn't seem to mesh that well. They got a lot of pieces that just don't go together.
The Bucks. So this is a 2-part question. I'll answer it real quick. The Bucks are the best team in the East. Obviously, they're the favorite to win. I personally think the question that I'm going to ask you is, who is the biggest threat to Milwaukee? Who's the biggest threat just to them? And then who is the team other than Milwaukee that you think could win the East? So it's two different questions. For me, I got the biggest threat is Miami to Milwaukee just because they're tough, like you said. Jimmy Butler, Bam. I don't think we're going to beat them. I'm a Heat fan, by the way. I don't think we're going to beat them. I think we're just going to give them a tough series. We're going to beat them down kind of we have a lot of gritty, hard, Jay Crowder, Iggy, tough defenders. But I think the best team in the East other than them, and I'm not even a big Bucks fan. I like the Celtics. I think Jason Tatum in a couple years is going to be a top 5 player possibly in this league. Kemba, you got Jaylen Brown. Enes Kanter is not a bad, big man to have. And you have Gordon Hayward. I don't know if that's enough to beat Milwaukee, but if another team gets out and it's not Milwaukee, I don't like the Sixers. I just don't believe in them. I don't think it's going to be Miami. I don't know how far Miami's even going to go. They might lose to Philly in round 1. I got Boston. Who you got?
So who has the best chance of beating Milwaukee? Personally, I'm looking at matchups. I think it's Philly because they may have the most talented roster. Them in Boston, it's a toss-up, and then you have to look at who can guard Giannis. When I look at Boston, I don't know who they have that can guard him. Kanter's too slow. When you talk about Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, those guys are too small. So when I look at the two teams, not that I want Embiid guarding them, but at least you have Ben Simmons, someone who's 6'10", who has put on some weight from a physical standpoint and in athleticism. He can move, he can slide his feet. Giannis is his hybrid point forward where he's going coast to coast. I don't feel comfortable with any bigs on Boston guarding him. So now you have to go small. When you go small, you double team. Milwaukee's going to space the floor, and they're going to find shooters. So if
Middleton,
it's me,
Porter.
I mean, even both Lopez brothers are starting to shoot the ball. If it's me in a one series, I got Philly as the best team to beat them. But it's a game of matchups. I think Boston is the best team in the East other than Milwaukee. I just don't think they match up well with Milwaukee. At the end of the day, I think Bucks. I think they're going to win the East. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I don't really see anybody in the East taking them past 5 games. Honestly, I think
So yeah,
Bucks in 5, maybe in 6 at the most.
nah. See, I'm not. I'm not going to jump the gun because I don't know the matchups yet. But I don't know about that. I think someone could take them to 7 or even beat them. But
The only issue I have with the Heat is the game slows down, and we saw that in the games yesterday. Even though it was a regular season game, once you get to the playoffs, it becomes a half-court set. And when the game slows down, great offense beats great defense every time. Sometimes you just can't stop LeBron. No matter how good a defense you play, he's just going to score. So when I look at the Heat, can you win a championship with Jimmy Butler as your best player?
no,
I don't know.
you can't even win with Dame as your. I mean, I
And
really
then
don't
who
think
is
Dame
your
should be number
second
one.
best player? It's
Bam.
a who had a great year, all-star, exceeding expectations. But when you look at all the top teams, Milwaukee, 2 all-stars. You had a defensive player of the year, and with one of the Lopez brothers, you got the tandem out in LA Clippers, LA Lakers. You got Houston, who's a wild card with their 2 stars. So it's a league of 2 or 3 players, and I feel like the Heat are built for the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to do in a 7-game series where it turns into ISO ball? You run a play just to get Jimmy the ball in his favorite spot. And can he go out there and get you 35 plus on a consistent basis and take over?
No.
Can he contribute single-handedly to 8 straight baskets, whether it's an assist or the hockey assist, as they like to call it?
But it's funny because you're bringing up that point. Every box that you just said, Damian Lillard checks. And last year, they beat Denver in the second round, right? And they had a chance to beat Golden State. I mean, probably his best chance he'll ever have. He's playing Golden State, no Durant. They have a good, Seth Curry on the bench, solid. They had Aminu, I'm pretty sure, Rodney Hood. They had a solid team, and they got swept. So, that just shows you how good you have to be, just to get to the finals, and I thought they would make it more competitive.
It's when you look at the Warriors and them sweeping Portland without KD, it looks bad for Portland. But I also think that just goes to show
how good the
Warriors are. I mean, you got arguably the best 2 shooters in the history of basketball, the best backcourt playing in their prime at the same time.
So do you think they'll be back next year and top 3 seed?
I do. I mean, when you look at it, you got 4 all-stars. And I say 4. Andrew Wiggins may not live up to the max contract that he got.
But how about a top pick also?
And you got a top pick. So are they going to go with a
Melo,
guard
James Wiseman
for the future? You can go with Melo, who he doesn't fit your need right now. You could go with
James Wiseman.
What's the guard from I'm blanking on his name. The guard from Georgia.
Anthony Edwards.
And he's talented. Great size, explosive, super athletic. When he gets hot, he's probably the most talented player in this year's draft. He could go for 30 quick he did.
We've seen it in college. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If it's me, I'm going with James Wiseman. 7-footers. I know the game is going away from that, but man, you get a 7-footer who can move his feet.
For the Warriors specifically, though, you got to think they got
him.
That literally it fits the one spot because they've always had to put JaVale McGee. Now they got Curry at the 1, Clay at the 2, Wiggins at the 3, or vice versa. Draymond at the 4, who's a small 4, and then you got James Wiseman at the 5.
Yeah, I mean, and you may be able to You may be able
Pascal
to
on the bench.
package maybe Andrew Wiggins. You could trade him for a couple pieces and go after. I don't want to say they started small ball, but they committed to it. You may go after an Anthony Edwards and bring him in, and he's a 6'5", big body two guard. Clay's big enough to play the three at 6'7", so now you have good size, and you may trade Andrew Wiggins and along with the draft pick and bring in another bring in an all-star.
That'd be crazy.
You could trade Andrew Wiggins plus a potential number one draft pick. You could bring in an all-star caliber player, and you're right back in the same situation you were before.
Easily all-star caliber player.
Kayvon Looney, he was hurt. That five-man has always been a role player at best. They went with like David West. They went with Andrew Bogut. You had, that's just a rotating door. So you surround them with some of those guys. For them, all they need is an athletic 7-footer. Easier said than done. I know they don't grow on trees, but you can find a big man who could just run the floor, dunk, catch the ball, block shots. If you find one of those guys, you surround them with 4 all-stars, you're back.
So last question here, and then we're going to have to go. Clippers, real quick. Kawhi, Paul George, there's no debate. Their third guy is Lou Will. He's giving you 20 night, or Montrez. They have that clear third guy. My question is the Lakers, LeBron, AD, they've had random guys. You got Cruz going for 21 night, Caruso going for 20 another night, J.R. Smith, Dion, they could pop off, hit the threes. Down the stretch, who's going to be that consistent third guy for them that's going to show up every night and give you exactly what you're looking for?
In my opinion, it needs to be Kuzma.
Okay.
It needs to be him. He doesn't play outside of his ability. He defers a lot to LeBron and AD like he should. I feel most confident with him knocking down jump shots. I think right now the Lakers, I think that's what they're trying to figure out. Over the course of these next 7 games, you're going to see Dwight at the 5 at the end of the game going big. You're going to see Danny Green, KCP on the floor with the big 2, AD and LeBron, and possibly Dion Waiters. It could be done by committee. J.R. Smith is probably the most complete player offensively and defensively because he is a above-average defender on the perimeter.
They might all give you like 6 to 8 points, and that would be enough. If J.R. Smith hits 2 threes, you got Green hitting a couple, Dion, Caruso, eventually it adds up.
For me, that's why a lot of people they took away from the Clippers yesterday, they didn't have Trez and they didn't have Lou Williams. Just imagine when those guys come back. Yes, but Paul George going for 30+. Kawhi going for high 20, 28. He was in the high 20s. Those guys, their touches and points will come down a little bit. Jermichael Green coming off the bench, hitting threes yesterday. You had Reggie Jackson, who's a very good player, shown that he's a borderline all-star player when healthy in Detroit. He was hitting big shots. So those guys, their role is going to diminish to where Lou Will and Trez and those guys will get those shots. So, Lou Will, look, at the end of the day, he's going to be in at the end of the game. He's going to be able to ISO and hit big shots. At the same time, we've already seen the Lakers game plan from pre-COVID. They're going to pick and roll, get a switch, and they're going to attack him. So he has to defend.
My point that I'm trying to make real quick, last point I'm going to say, like you said, Kuzma fits LeBron and AD's game. He doesn't try to force it. I saw a little bit too much forcing, like Dion Waiters makes one nice spin move layup, and then he's shooting 3 threes. That is why in Miami, you had Mike Miller, Battier, Rashard Lewis, Ray Allen. They didn't force anything. They knew, I'm going to sit in that corner spot, that wing spot. LeBron's going to drive. He'll get me the ball. I'm not going to force anything. I'm a shooter. I'm going to keep shooting. But at the same time, you got to know, your surroundings, who's on the floor. That's really it for this video. We talked a good amount about, the NBA. Next video, we're looking to talk maybe a little about some college football season coming back. If you have any other ideas, make sure you write it in our comments. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to us. And share the video. The tags will be in this video for our Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube, and then my personal tag, Logan Collins 223, is my Instagram. Sosa.
Adrian Sosa 10.
And Max isn't shown right now, but he will post his as well. He's our video manager and social media manager. But like I said, we're going to keep bringing good content for you guys. Try once or twice a week, upload something about the NBA and or any other sport. But right now, you know, between NBA and MLB, we're just focusing on the NBA. That's really it. Good video, and peace.
Yeah, peace.